Hey you guys, it's Britt. Tonight we're here to talk about Anne. Anne is going a little viral over on TikTok because she is a grandma that doesn't understand boundaries. So I figured this would be a good, interesting conversation. I want to hear from y'all as always, but we're going to go over it. So if you're interested, please keep watching. All right, you guys. So Anne is a grandmother. She lives in New York City in a very, very nice, I believe it's a condo, I think that they own. And she shares her life on TikTok. Right now, she has 142.6 thousand followers, and the videos that we're going to go over are definitely performing very well. The first one has over 850,000 views, and the other one has over 250,000 views. And the comments are really encapsulating kind of how I feel about this. Anne is also an author, so she has, built a really nice life for herself. Now, I'm not saying that she's an author as a way to make it sound like, oh, she's an author, she shouldn't be behaving in this manner, but I'm just trying to give a little backstory as to like who she is and why she even has a following. I think some people know her from being an author, some know her from her New York City condo, some people know her from the shopping hauls that she does. She does like Whole Foods, shop with me kind of stuff. So either way, before I babble like always, let's watch the first video that got Anne into a little hot water, and then we'll move on to the clarification video that she put out that didn't really sway anyone, but let's watch part one first.
I wasn't looking forward to being a grandparent. We have very complicated, difficult relationships with two of our daughters-in-laws, and I thought it would...
Keep in mind, during this entire video, she says less than 10 seconds into this video, she has a complicated relationship with not one, but two of her daughter-in-laws. Keep that in mind as we go through this entire video.
Only make things worse. I'm finding being a grandmother to be bittersweet. I love those kids more than anything. I just really love them. But it's been very difficult watching how they're being treated by their mother and father. At the beginning, my first grandson...
Well, now hold on, Anne. If you're saying that it's bittersweet and it's difficult to see how these children are being treated, to me that would be a bit of a red flag. But in your world, you think it's bittersweet because you're not getting your way. You are being met with boundaries that you do not like. So therefore, becoming a grandparent has been bittersweet and you feel bad for the kids because things are not going your way. That's a red flag, but let's keep going.
Told we could only give presents on Christmas, Hanukkah, and his birthday, and I respect that. I will just tell you an aside. About 7 years ago, I went to this really horrible dermatologist, and she looked at a spot on my arm and she said, I think that's melanoma. So she said, we'll have to do a biopsy, but I really think it's melanoma. So what's the first thing I think when this woman tells me I have this horrible skin cancer? I think, how can I use this to get a toy to my grandson? So as soon as I walked out of the office...
Now, for me, that is a scary way to look at what could be a really serious issue for your health. You get this diagnosis that isn't really even a diagnosis because it was a thought by the dermatologist. You receive this, and your first thought, instead of saying, wow, how can I take care of this? Let's make sure that I'm healthy. What can I do to, improve this potentially terrible situation? Instead of choosing that path, Anne decides to utilize this could be situation as a way to cross boundaries. Now, luckily, knock on wood right here, but I've been fortunate enough to not be in the position of receiving news like this. But I do feel like one of the last things that I would think of is how can I use this as a way to get what I want and manipulate people and emotionally abuse people that have set boundaries. Now I can use this as a way to just bulldoze right over those.
I texted my son and I said, I just found out I probably have melanoma and there's nothing anyone can do to help me, but it would really make me feel better if I could send a garbage truck to my grandson. And he writes back, he goes, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Okay. Now, 2 days later, I found out I didn't have melanoma, but I do still have the scar where they took it off. And that was the first thing I thought when I had a life-threatening disease.
The first thing you thought when you had a life-threatening disease was, how can I use this to make my grandson's parents, my son, my daughter-in-law, how can I use this as a way to make them feel bad so that I can do what I want to do? You were literally facing something that was fatal, and you, first thing out the gate, you think, how can I use this to my advantage? That is very, very alarming behavior. Let's move from Anne receiving a cancer diagnosis as a way to do something that her son and her daughter-in-law asked her to not do. How can I do this? How can I get it done? Let's go to the second video where she explains herself and it's a big flop.
Yesterday I posted a video about asking my son if I could give my grandson a garbage truck when a doctor told me there was a good chance I had melanoma. A lot of people said I wasn't respecting boundaries. A lot of people said I had problems because I have complicated relationships with 2 daughters-in-laws. And people said you could just take them to a park. Well, first of all, I live 3,000 miles away from my grandson. I'm 72 years old. I can't make the trip anymore. We were supposed to go in a couple of weeks, and I just can't do it. So we see them twice a year. I didn't cross a boundary. My doctor said I had melanoma. There was a good chance. And that was the first thing I thought. Not, oh my God, maybe I'm going to die. It was like, how can I do something? And I asked my son if I could get a garbage truck for him. And he said yes. And fortunately, I didn't have melanoma. But I did everything by the book. I always do everything by the book. And I just wanted to make that clear.
Anne, I have a question. What book are we going by? The guide on how to manipulate people with a potential diagnosis? Is the book how to emotionally abuse people in your life? Is that the book? Because I'm not sure what book you're reading, but I've never heard of this approach being by the book. Not ever. I just cannot understand why a potentially deadly diagnosis would equal automatically I need to send my grandson a toy even though I know that I'm not supposed to. So I'm going to drop in the fact that I could have this super scary diagnosis as a way to make my son feel bad. And obviously he answered okay because he felt terrible. He didn't say okay because you were calling on a random Tuesday in May. It's because you made the request after saying, oh my God, I could have this life-threatening cancer. In my opinion, I think that Anne really needs to self-reflect. And my question for y'all is, I'm asking this because a common comment that I've seen in both of these videos is that boomers push boundaries. Boomers don't get boundaries. Boomer grandparents are toxic. I don't think that that's fair to just put a blanket statement over all boomer grandparents. But I would like to know from y'all, if you have children and you have a boomer grandparent or grandparents in your child's life, do you find that they ignore boundaries? Do they not care? Do they just kind of like bulldoze over your rules? What is your experience? Because I feel like Anne the doubling down for me is, it's kind of a lost cause, because she's obviously not going to come back and be like, oh my God, I was wrong. Like, that was so wrong of me. That's not going to happen. So I want to know from y'all, what is your experience if you have dealt with boomer grandparents in your child's life? But I think both of these videos really encapsulate why there are issues with both of the daughter-in-laws. I think that it makes sense now, and yeah, either way, I listened to this, and to be honest, my jaw was kind of on the floor. This kind of seems like something that should have been written in your journal instead of posted to TikTok. But nevertheless, here we are. And I think I'm done. So for now, if you like the video, please leave a like and a comment. And if you'd like to see more from me in the future, please subscribe. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.